I'm Julie Barkey with this Senate update. A bill designed to begin a conversation about whether it's fair for government to interfere with what some consider religious rights was the focus of a news conference on Thursday. Senator Paul Gazelka explains what his religious freedom bill is designed to do and what it is not intended to do.
And today we're introducing a bill called the Religious Freedom Bill. And before we start about what the bill is, I want to talk about what the bill is not. This is not a bill to discriminate against gays and lesbians. This is not a bill to prevent a gay couple from getting the services they need for a wedding service. This bill is not modern-day Jim Crow laws, as I've heard stated about other bills similar to this. Jim Crow laws were state-sponsored discrimination. This is not a bill to end gay marriage. I was one of the legislators who opposed gay marriage, but even then, I said that gays and lesbians should be able to live as they choose. Now, gay marriage is legal in Minnesota, and I'm simply asking that Christians and people of faith be able to live as they choose, without the threat of punishment from the government. Last summer, a Catholic family in my district chose not to hold a gay wedding ceremony on their private property. The decision was based on their religious beliefs that gay marriage was wrong. Like many, they believe marriage is a sacred ceremony between a man and a woman. And they told the young men that they would not have the ceremony on their property because of their beliefs. They were polite, they were respectful, but they could not violate their conscience. That's when the hammer dropped. The Minnesota Human Rights Commission forced them to pay over $9,000 of restitution and legal fees because they did not want to have the wedding there. They ended up having the wedding somewhere else, and they had to pay for that and the reception. I don't think that's right. It's not right to deny anyone services simply because of who they are, but it's also not right to force someone to celebrate a gay wedding if they think it's wrong. These opposing worldviews have crashed head-on. And the only way for our divided culture to move forward is for both sides to be able to live as they please. Both sides have to leave a little room for the other side to disagree. Today is meant to be the beginning of a public conversation to find a place where both sides can live as they please. The bill is specifically targeted towards the place of friction, the marriage ceremony. This is a work in process. I've been working on this bill for almost a year. Last summer is when the family in my district had their difficulties. I can tell you that I've reached out to a number of folks in the gay community a number of times, seeing if there's a way and place that we can find common ground. I've also reached out to a number of DFL legislators, of which those that I've talked to are supportive of what I'm trying to do, but none were willing to put their name on the bill. The 5 people that we have on the Senate version are all Republicans. And I will continue to reach out to those groups as well as the communities of faith. My hope is that someday in the future we can have the communities of faith on one side and the gay community on the other side saying that it is worth finding a place where both sides should be able to live as they please. This is a start. I've handed out the bill to you that we're going to drop today. It's possible that it may take on other version or other languages, but this is a start. But finally, I'll say I think that everyone should be able to live and work according to their faith and conscience, without fear of punishment from their government. And with that, I'll take some questions. I do have a representative here and a few senators, and like I said, there was a number of other senators, Senator Benson and Senator Kiffmeyer and others, but it's just busy around here this time of year. But
to that point, why now? Why drop this now? Why not the beginning of 2016?
In fact, I appreciate that. I didn't pitch you a softball there. But I meant to say I really did not want to drop a bill unless we had a growing consensus that included Democrats that were willing to sign their name on the bill. And because I'm really trying to build that consensus and have worked behind the scenes, I thought it was more appropriate than rather than throw this on as a bill, rather than try to do an amendment that would require everybody to get a vote, I wanted to do it after deadline and publicly say, we are trying to start a conversation here. This is a difficult subject. These two sides, when they collide, it creates a lot of mess and a lot of heartache. And how do we figure our way through that? So that was why. I appreciate that question.
This pertains, Senator, only to religious beliefs. If I have deeply held beliefs on something, that doesn't count. It's religious beliefs only.
Well, it's freedom of conscience. I believe that it would make room for people if it was, whatever the view is. But I think the fact is, where all the cases around the country where there has been a conflict, it's clearly been a religious belief. I think virtually all of them that have made the media are a Christian that has abstained because of their religious belief. But it frankly could be an Orthodox Jew or Muslim or other people. But
we had a situation in Minneapolis a few years ago where cabbies were, Muslim cabbies were refusing, for religious beliefs, to carry passengers who were carrying alcohol.
Yeah.
Is this a similar situation?
Well, in a way, it is a similar situation in that we are acknowledging that there often is a collision between a person's religious point of view and a cultural point of view or a place in the law. And when they collide, what do we do about it? And so this bill, though, is specifically related to the marriage ceremony. I know a number of people in the faith community that love to serve everybody, including gays and lesbians, but when it comes to the actual celebration of the marriage that they consider a sacred ceremony, that's where they abstain. That's where they try to find somebody else to provide the service because they don't want to deny the service, nor does this bill, if you've read the bill. It is very intentional at saying we should not, a gay couple should be able to get services. But but assuming they can, when they're colliding, we want somebody else to not be punished by the government when they simply don't want to participate, even when they're trying to have somebody else provide the services and help. And so this is a surgical approach. If you see many of the bills around the country, they're much, much broader. This is specifically focused on that place where the conflict is the deepest.
And that kind of leads to this. Is this completely unique? Is this modeled after any other state, or did you completely craft this on your own? And it seems to have a lot of caveats in it. Yeah,
this is not modeled after any other state. I don't know that there's one is as specific as focusing on just the marriage ceremony, but that's where I see the conflict around the country. I talked to another business owner, a Christian business owner. He's a party rental group. They rent to all people. They have no problems. They want to serve people. But he said he himself would have had a difficult time had he been a wedding photographer and had gone to that wedding because it's such a sacred ceremony to him. I talked to another Christian photographer that has no problem photographing any event. So this is why it's a freedom of conscience, because for some, this is not a big deal, but for others it is. And so how do we allow for those two different points of view to coexist together? And that's what the attempt of this bill is.
Does it change Minnesota's human rights law in any particular way, or does this get attached to it? Is that how this would work? That's a good question. I can't answer that right now. I don't believe it changes anything in that law. It specifically points to when this is the situation, here's where we should allow room for people to live as they please.
Can you talk a little more about reaching out to the gay and lesbian community, and maybe specifically who you reached out to, whether you even got a response and what they might have said, and whether you reasonably might expect them to really get on board with it?
Yeah, the one group I'll publicly say that I've talked to, even though I've talked to a number of groups, I just don't have their permission, but the one group I think would be all right is I've talked to Out Front Minnesota a number of times. They have an open door into my office. They always will. I think they recognize the problem, but they're not supportive of the solution. I think that would be accurate. Though there are others in the gay community that recognize the problem and think this is a possible solution, but they also said, I don't think that you're going to get people to agree. So at the end of the day, I'm hoping people agree about the idea of liberty and freedom and diversity and letting people have a different point of view than themselves without trying to have the government punish those people that have the different opinion.
And on the other side of that, you know, has there been sort of any push for this by groups like maybe the Minnesota Family Council or other conservative groups?
Well, I have outreach to Minnesota Family Council and some of the Catholic groups and others. I intentionally did not want them up here, because I really want to say we want to bring both sides together to try to find some solutions. But yes, I have definitely reached out to them.
And are they in support of this bill?
They would be in support of this bill. They may or may not want something broader, but they are supportive of this as well.
When talking with gay rights supporters about similar legislation, one of the things I found is, while they certainly object to a lot of the specifics of these bills and broader bills,
sure.
Often a deeper objection is the sense that it's moving backwards. That even if they might have been acceptable with these provisions, had they been an advanced, part of a bill to legalize gay marriage or something like that,
yeah.
They don't like the idea that they've gained something and now they see it as moving backwards. You address that?
Yeah, I sure will, and I would disagree with that assessment. I think any time that we can promote freedom for all, that is an advancement. And I want to cite an article that came out May 1st of 2014. It was in the Star Tribune, Minneapolis Star Tribune, and it was put out by 60 authors that supported, or 60 supporters of gay marriage, including one of the authors of the gay marriage bill. And the title was Persuade, Don't Punish Gay Rights Opponents. And I'll just read two paragraphs, if I may. The gay rights struggle is about the freedom and equality for all. The best and most free society is one that allows the largest number to live to their core beliefs and identities. It is a society that allows its members to speak their minds and shape their own aspirations. The natural consequences of true liberty is diversity, and they're saying that in response to those that oppose gay marriage. Unless a society can figure out a way to reach perfect agreement, conflicting views will be inevitable. Any effort to impose conformity through government or any other means by punishing the misguided for believing incorrectly will impoverish society intellectually and oppress it politically. So these were folks that were very passionate about gay marriage, saying that it's important that we protect freedom for all.
Is there some, see that the House member here, but there's not a co-bill at this point in the House, and is that because leadership didn't want to deal with it?
No, I don't think so, but I will let the representative comment about that. But we, both of our leaderships know about the bill, but these are not leadership bills. I think it's important to say that. It's too early in the process, frankly, because I've said we are now publicly starting an open conversation, but I'll let Representative talk about that.
Okay. Representative Tim Miller with District 17A, and to answer your question, I talked to Senator Gazelka about this yesterday and chose not to drop a bill. I understood that he was dropping this bill to begin the conversation, and I think that's a very good idea. And I would like to be part of that conversation along with all groups. Dropping a bill at this time I thought was sort of kind of a blunt instrument to begin that, to make some statement. And I'm not here to make a statement. I really appreciate what the senator and the other senators are saying is that that we have kind of a conflict here, and I think in our nation we have ways of resolving conflict peacefully, and that's what I hope that we intend to do here. But dropping a bill at this time was not in my interest. So.
Leadership is not saying, no, not now.
I made leadership aware of this. No one said no, by any sense. Do they want to focus more on the budget and getting this session completed with a balanced budget on time? Absolutely. So there was concern about that. I talked to some of them and said this is what my intention is, and they were okay with it.
I'll say the other reason we dropped the bill now is I was appointed to the tax conference committee, so we're busy the rest of the time. So now was the day. So, Well, if there's no more, or one more question?
Your district, Senator, what was its vote on the amendment?
I believe it was near 70% opposed to gay marriage. Or for the marriage amendment was near 70% was in favor of that, so.
Do you sense change, shift in that?
No, I don't think there's much change, and I think that's a good question too. Some have said this will just blow over time, and I think it really will be more like the abortion issue, where both sides are pretty much the same divide as they were 40 years ago, and and most of it's because it's deeply held religious views, and so in that particular issue, we figured out how to live together. A nurse, for example, may not have to participate in an abortion if it's against their bill, and so, or against their beliefs. So this is very similar to that, I think.
Again, again, I'm thinking of another situation a few years ago where pharmacists did not want to give out contraceptive devices of religious beliefs. This would protect, but the resolution, I believe, was somebody had to.
Yep.
And that would stand in this case too. If you have a small drugstore in your hometown,
Yep.
and the pharmacist said no for religious reasons, I'm not giving you this pill.
Yeah.
Would he or she be required to if there was not another pharmacist there?
Actually, I can't speak to that. This bill is only related to the ceremony of marriage, and it's very prescriptive, and also, if you read through the bill, tried to address any area that potentially there was a problem getting services, for example. I said that, if they couldn't get services by somebody else, it had to be provided. I made sure that, if a religious hospital said they couldn't have visitation services or things of that nature, that was not in this bill. It's really focused on the marriage celebration, because that's where I see the most conflict.
And Senator Hanna and nobody in leadership said, oh, please, not now.
That's correct. We had a discussion about it, so.